or?
I believe that I will be.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
Oops.
right.
So if you can
So,
just let me know.
okay. So yeah, my name is Dara Gilbert, and I am one of two program advisors for the biochemistry program. I will go through some of the slides and explain some of the things you'll do for the next 4 or 5 years, depending whether you're regular or co-op. So if I think we can go to the next slide. Maybe. All right. So I guess the next slide. Can you do it, Nicholas, or can I, or?
Can you not see me going to the next slide right now?
I can only see the first slide.
Hmm.
Can anybody else see the second slide?
I can't see it either. I can only see the first one.
Interesting. Okay, give me a second. Sorry about that.
So while Nicholas is figuring it out, I have the slides in front of me on my computer. So what we'll start with is a welcome and introduction to what biochemistry is. All right, now we're on the third slide. Okay, now we're on the second slide. Okay, so again, this is what we're going to do. I'll explain a little bit about what biochemistry is, introduce myself and Dr. Holyoke, and then I'll give you some helpful hints to how to make this year and the next 4 or 5 years, again, fun, productive, and informative. So if we could go to the next slide. No? Yeah, okay, so biochemistry. So when I work at the Ontario University Fair or orientation, or even talking to students in first and second year biochemistry courses, I get a lot of, I liked biology and I liked chemistry both in high school, so I thought I would study biochemistry. And that's a good starting point. So what biochemistry is the study of these lifeless molecules and how they come together to allow living things. And so again, biochemistry is looking at the chemistry of all the reactions that go on that support life. And I like this last quote: biochemistry is the logic of biological phenomena. Because as you study biochemistry, sometimes you'll think, does logic really play a part in this? And so these 3 sort of figures show a couple of the things that you'll be studying over the next, over your course of your time in biochemistry. So this is an enzyme mechanism. And so this shows sort of the organic chemistry of how an enzyme works and how it breaks bonds between a sugar and another sugar. It involves parts of the enzyme that act as acid and bases, cofactors, and such. And so again, in second and third year courses, you'll be looking at how these reactions happen on an enzyme surface. This is just a structure of a membrane protein. It's involved in signaling, in hormone signaling. And so again, you'll learn about what this picture means, how amino acids form proteins, and how proteins fold up and do all the really cool things that they do. This little animation here shows probably one of the most important proteins in your body. This is a protein called hemoglobin, and it's involved in transferring oxygen from your lungs to your tissues. And it's really cool because it changes structure, which is what you can see in this animation, showing when oxygen is bound and when it's not. And you'll learn all about how the chemistry of the amino acids and how they interact with each other allows this protein to work. So that's sort of a little bit about what you're getting yourself into. That's a very small portion of biochemistry. Biochemistry is in the news a lot these days with the whole COVID-19. And so, right, all of that, how the virus binds to receptors, how they get internalized, all of that is chemistry and biochemistry. Some would say it's virology as well, but there's a lot of overlap. So I want to sort of go over some of the mechanics. Well, first I'll go to the next slide. So this is a picture of me a couple of years ago. This is Dr. Holyoke. The biochemistry program is joint between the Department of Biology and the Department of Chemistry. So we have one advisor from the chemistry department, that's me, and one advisor from the biology department, that's Dr. Holyoke. You'll all meet virtually Dr. Holyoke in Biology 130 this term. He just couldn't be with us this morning. So again, the two of us will help you navigate through the program. Chemistry-centered questions should come to me. Biology-centered questions probably would be better off talking to Dr. Holyoke. So your first year, most of your advising questions will go through the first year advisors in the science undergrad office. And then once you're selecting courses for your second year, then you would contact the two of us. So if we could have the next slide. So these are the key department people. So Dr. Bill Power and Dr. Hugh Broders are the chairs of the chemistry and biology departments. Oops, I should have capitalized chemistry. But the real power in the departments belong to these two women. Julie Shikazi and Sue White are the administrative coordinators for undergraduate students. And they can, through me, help you with any issues with departmental things or getting into courses that you need and such. So these two names are very important. If we could have the next slide. So while you're here, there are a bunch of people that you're going to interact with. Your academic advisors I talked about as well. These are the kinds of things we can help you with, not so much with your grades. That is pretty much your responsibility. But if things go south, we can help you figure out ways to recover. We can help you figure out whether you want to do a minor or a specialization and how to fit that into your program. Planning for international exchange, again, the advisors in the science undergrad office are probably better at that than I am. Helping you figure out what to do. Academic requirements for grad studies and professional programs. I can help with that. Dr. Holyoke can help with that, but there's also an office in the Center for Career. I don't remember what it's called anymore. But I will make sure I can help you find that information as well. And again, ask, or what I should say is check the website first, then ask. And we will be there to help you, guide you through what you're going to do. In terms of instruction, so can we have the next slide, please? The people you're going to run into are your professors. These are really great people who will run your online and in-person lectures. They may also run research groups. Dr. Holyoke is a protein crystallographer looking at structures of enzymes and how they work. They're good people to talk about research opportunities, both as volunteer or co-op. I teach full-time. I don't run a research group, but I know most of the biochemistry faculty quite well, so I can also help facilitate those kinds of connections. The instructors that you'll work most closely with will be your lab instructors when we have labs in person. And again, these are the truly dedicated and incredibly qualified people who make sure all your lab courses run smoothly, are interesting and relevant. You'll have teaching assistants who are graduate students usually in your field, and they will do sort of the direct interactions in labs, help with marking lab reports and such. All of these 4 people, upper year students, there are a couple of here, they can help you, right? Ask them questions, say things like, oh, what did you wish you knew in first year? And they can help, again, guide you through the program, tell you what classes are really interesting and such, and sort of help encourage you through. Next slide, please. What should you know in first year? It's a shock. It's very different in high school. When I first started teaching here 15 years ago, my daughter was 2 and I had no idea. I'm from the US. I had no idea what high school was like in Canada. My daughter just graduated from high school, is starting university just like you guys are. So I have a better idea of what high school is like. We're going to expect a great deal more of you than was expected in high school. You're going to have to read course notes, read textbooks before you come to lecture. One of the things that we as instructors will do is help you understand stuff you don't understand from your reading rather than teaching you everything. You're going to have to study more, and you're going to have a lot of assessments. You'll have online quizzes, you'll have written assignments, and these will help you figure out what you understand and what you don't understand. And those are really important to work hard on. So again, it'll be a lot more independent learning. And by independent, I don't mean that you have to do it by yourself. Some assessments will be, yes, you have to do it by yourself, but find students in your program, talk to each other, explain things to each other, because talking about it is, again, the best way to make sure you understand something. If you can explain it to somebody else, then you understand it. If you just read through your notes and say, oh yeah, I recognize that, that makes sense, it's not really getting cemented in your head. And your courses will build on each other. So the stuff you learn this year in first year chemistry and in Biology 130, you'll definitely need in second year when you take Introductory Biochemistry, Chem 233. The stuff you learn in Chem 233 will be built on in your third and fourth year biochemistry classes. Organic chemistry is incredibly important, and that you'll do next year, because biochemistry is organic chemistry in aqueous solutions. So understanding how that works is really important. Next slide, please. Classroom expectations, computer screen expectations. Again, we expect you to be prepared. Do your reading beforehand. Come to class with questions. And again, these questions will be not so much in person this time, but use the discussion boards, any kind of tools that your instructors have set up for you to ask questions and get answers. And be prepared again, too, to answer your colleagues or your classmates' questions as well. Teaching styles, chemistry, biology are the two I'm most familiar with, and they vary from here's the material, read it, to very engaged sort of flipped classroom style stuff where we're say, here, you read this and then come back and explain it to us. So you'll see all kinds of different teaching styles, even in this remote setting. Next slide, please. So these are the things you're going to have to be familiar with. Learn is the learning management system that the university adopted about 10 years ago. So all of your information will be there, course notes, schedules, everything for each class. Sorry, I talk too fast. Each class has its own website. There is also a SciSpace, which will pop up events and such. So make sure you access that. Yep. Oh, it's someone.
नहीं नहीं खा लो बाद में खा लो आप लोग खा लो.
You need to mute your microphone, please. Thank you. Quest, that is sort of your interface with the registrar's office. So you'll see your course schedule there. In the spring term, you'll do your course selection and check your enrollment. I'm going to tell you now, and I will tell you every time course selection comes up, you must do your course selection. That is how you get your classes. And it may seem like, oh, how do I know in the middle of fall term what I want to take in the winter term? So again, make sure you look at the course calendar, talk to me about what kinds of classes you need to take. Most of your first year classes are set for you. Use your UWaterloo email. Don't use Gmail, don't use Hotmail. Most professors won't answer emails from those kinds of addresses. Yeah, and just learn is the most important thing for you to keep track of. Next slide. What are the grade expectations? So everybody will tell you that your average will drop by 10 percentage points when you go from high school to university. That isn't necessarily true. So I've seen students dramatically improve, but at this point, grades matter, and grades are not as high as they were in high school. So pay attention to your syllabus from each class. Make sure you know what the weight of each assignment is, what the deadlines are, and all of this will be included in the course outline. And it's your responsibility to pay attention to these things. I know in high school, there was this rule that you couldn't get a 0 on something if you didn't hand it in. That rule does no longer applies, right? If you don't hand something in, you will get a 0 on it. Academic standings, you don't really need to worry about until second year. They are excellent, good, satisfactory, conditional, and then gets sort of worse from there. Anytime your academic standing changes, you'll be notified. Actually, if it changes below satisfactory, you'll be notified. And again, meet with an advisor to make sure you can improve your marks and get through the term. Course selection for winter term starts at the end of September. So again, make sure you look through, make sure all your courses for the winter term are arranged. And again, for the required first year courses, you'll be block enrolled in those. And again, course selection becomes much more important in your second and third years. And again, I will send you an email reminding you to do it for your 2A term. Next slide. The course selection and enrollment for new students, there's a link to this website. Again, the Waterloo website isn't the easiest to find stuff, but with a persistent Googling, you can usually find the information you need. The undergraduate calendar lists all the programs, all the requirements, all the classes, and their prerequisites. It also lists the degree requirements, academic regulations, grading systems, and exam rules. So again, it's difficult to find things, but with persistence you can. The schedule of classes comes out while you're doing course selection, and that will list the courses that are offered. This website, important dates, that's one of the most important things. So that'll tell you when you can add classes, when you can drop classes, when all kinds of administrative things. There is one on the next slide, course planning thing that I want to talk about that's specific to biochemistry. Biochemistry requires a 0.25 unit lab class. And it used to be that you were all required. Is there a question?
Nope, we're just trying to work out some stuff before the panel. Go right ahead.
Oh, okay. It used to be that everybody had to take Physics 111. And if you're interested in optometry, medical school, I think pharmacy, don't think pharmacy requires it. This is a really good lab class to take, and you'll be taking it next term or this term with Physics 111. If you have opted not to take it, your options are Chem 250L, which is a physical chemistry lab, Chem 313L, which is an inorganic chemistry lab. So if you're more chemistry focused, and then Biology 373 is a human physiology lab. The one thing to keep in mind is that Biology 373L has Biology 273 and Biology 373 as prerequisites. So think about what you want to do for that lab. This one, Physics 111L, is probably the easiest way to get that credit. And if you don't take it this fall, you can take it anytime over the next 4 or 5 years. But I just want you to think about that one for now. Next slide. First year courses, your first year courses, again, will be a little bit different than usual, not in person. So again, make sure you reach out virtually, develop your online communication skills, talk to professors. I taught a class in the spring term, and a student who was in her 3B term said, wow, this is the first time I've ever talked to a professor. And it was like this. It was on a virtual classroom. So talk to your professors, whether it's on discussion boards or setting up meetings. For this year, definitely, this is most important. And again, professors are nice people, and we want to help. And we want to help. We'll answer questions and such. We may refer you to a TA or to tutor if we think it's necessary, but definitely feel comfortable reaching out to your faculty. If you're going to want letters of reference for med school or grad school or jobs, again, if you go to a professor, you got 100 in the class, but you never ever spoke to that professor's not going to necessarily feel comfortable providing a reference because they don't really know who you are. Talk to your professors about research options. Never hurts to start, right? You can start doing undergraduate research projects in your 4th year, but you can also get research co-ops as early as after your 2A term. So lab instructors are very useful sources of information about what kind of skills are necessary in the workplace and such. So again, reach out to these people, talk to them, help build the connections that you need to succeed. And then the next slide, please. So I'll just tell you briefly about the resources that are available for you. So again, I've already said all of this. There will be some drop-in tutoring sessions, which will, of course, be virtual drop-in tutoring sessions. And there are test prep sessions for Chem 120, Chem 121. I think Bio 130 also does some of those kinds of things. So take advantage of every resource that you can. In the next slide, please. So this is the amazing science undergraduate office staff. They are wonderful. Their office is in the science teaching complex, room 2031, but you probably won't get there for a while. These people will help you through first year. And Lori and Priscilla, Marianne, Luke, Melinda, and Rebecca are all there. Danny's picture isn't here, but he's pretty amazing too. And they can help you mostly with your first year issues. And they have appointments and available through Teams and an online chat function. So again, these people are amazing and they're very, very helpful. So for your first year, start with them and then contact me afterwards, and you would interact with them through this website, scienceadvisor@uwaterloo.ca. Next slide, please. There are all kinds of supports for you. So there's the Student Success Office, which has both a science-specific subset and also general help with coping with the switch from high school to university. So reach out to them. If you are struggling with your written work, the Writing Center is amazing. So you can take your rough drafts and they will help you put together your lab reports in a coherent fashion, or any papers that are assigned. Definitely take advantage of that resource. If you're struggling, right, the switch from high school to university, moving away from home, all those kinds of things can be quite stressful. We have an amazing counseling services on campus, and they can help with study habits, stress management, test anxiety. So they have a whole bunch of online workshops. Look at their website and take advantage of anything you need there. Health services, make sure you're physically well. Athletics and recreation, right? Physical activity is a great stress reduction technique. the mentor assistance through education. Again, these are upper year students who can, again, help you through courses and negotiating other kinds of difficult situations. Again, the Science Undergrad Office page is a great way to find these peer success coaching, science transitions, all of this information you can find there. Then social, right? Make friends, meet new people. That's part of the fun of going away to university. And of course, you're somewhat limited in that. There aren't any of the orientation, giant picnics and stomping around and yelling and screaming and wearing funny colored paint on your face, which is kind of sad, but we'll do it virtually. Science Society and the affiliated clubs, again, great place to meet people. The Waterloo Undergraduate Student Association, there are other clubs. So if you don't want to just do science clubs, there's an awesome improv club. There's Dungeons and Dragons clubs. There's clubs for anything you're interested in. There are a bunch of outreach clubs. There's a great one. I'm just going to plug things for students I really like. So improv plug is for Claire. NTech is a program that was set up by 2 biomedical sciences students a couple of years ago, where students go into the retirement community, retirement homes, and help, I hate to say this, but older people like me set up their technology and such. So there's an amazing amount of stuff that you can do, and I would strongly recommend it. Oh, and I'm way over time, but I just got one more slide that I want to show. No. Oh, no, I forgot that one. Who can I ask for help? This is the link I mentioned earlier, right? So in the Center for Career Action, there are 2 further education advisors. So if you are considering graduate school, medical school, pharmacy school, optometry school, any of those professional programs, now is the time to start the planning. It's very disconcerting at the end of your 3rd year and you've been in co-op and then you realize, oh my goodness, because of the co-op on-off schedule, med school is not going to accept any of my 3rd year grades. So again, these people are a great way for you to get started on that planning. For grad school, again, talk to me, talk to Dr. Holyoke, talk to any of your graduate student TAs. They can also help you figure out how to plan for that. Grad school, you don't have to plan quite as early, but professional schools, starting the plan in your 1st year is probably a really good idea. And then the last thing last slide, just a plug for this sort of biochemistry related clubs in Biochem. Because you're both in chemistry and biology, you can be in the Biochem club. And this is their logo. And this is the link to the Biochem, the BSA, which is Biochemical Student Association. And once you take your first Biochem class, you'll know that this also stands for bovine serum albumin, which is a protein that's used as a standard for every single protein assay ever run. Chem Club is in C2, room 260. Again, chemistry students, but they'll allow biochemistry students every once in a while. And BUGS is the Biology Undergrad Society. So you're eligible to belong to all 3 of these as a biochemist. And then this link, Waterloo Science Society, is the link to all the departmental clubs. So if there are any, I know I talked too long and too fast, but if there are any questions, I can answer those now. So participants, I see there was a hand up. Harris, do you have a question?
Yes. Hi. I was wondering about since there was COVID-19, I decided not to do dormitory for the fall term. But do you know, like, for the dormitory sign up for the second term, it's gonna happen? Like, when
I have
exactly?
no idea. That
Okay.
you need to contact the residence office.
All right. And then my other question was, so would you possibly know, like, what would happen to, like, the fees arranged
Nope.
as an? Okay,
I only
no.
know about biochemistry. That you need to talk to the somebody else.
All right. And then I guess, okay, this is my last question about the textbook. Um, so I know, like, if I go to the Waterloo store and find my book look,
Mm-hmm.
it shows a few textbook in my required, but should I wait later when school starts and have the professor like message or like tell us what kind of textbook to get?
I would wait until, I mean, it never hurts to start early. It will vary wildly from professor to professor.
All right. Okay, because I'm just like trying to prepare for university and I don't
Yep.
know. Yeah.
Your first year chemistry book will be useful for the rest of your career here because you're going to be doing chemistry over and over and over again. I don't know anything about the other textbooks.
All right. Okay, so I'll just wait then.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
And I'll,
Thank you.
no problem. I'll cede control back to Nicholas. And I will be here if there are any questions at the end. I guess, yeah, why don't we do questions at the end? I think that's what I was supposed to say anyway.
Yeah. So thank you, Dr. Gilbert, for that presentation. So now we're going to be moving on to the student panelists. So now I guess all the student panelists who are going to talk, you can open up your mic and cameras so we can see you. And then Dr. Gilbert, if you want, you can turn off your camera now if you want, or you can stay, put your camera on. It's up to you. You're on mute right now.
I'll turn it off.
Okay, sounds good.
That way, if anybody has any questions for me, you can let me know and I'll put it back on.
Yeah. So this will be kind of, we're going to go over the panelists and their journey throughout biochemistry. And then later on, it will be a Q&A session in which Anna will be giving a spiel about that. And I will be going back on turning off my camera right now. So good luck.
Okay, hi guys. So before the three panelists introduce themselves, I'm just gonna let you guys know a few things. First and foremost, this entire meeting is being recorded so that it can then be uploaded to YouTube for the students who were unable to make it. So just be aware of that with the language that you use and how you phrase your questions. And if there's anything that you don't feel comfortable having put on YouTube later on, you can always reach out to us directly and we will do our best to answer your questions. Because we are now on Microsoft Teams as opposed to WebEx, the way we're going to be handling questions is if you could raise your hand. We have two chat moderators who will be taking down the names of people whose hands are raised and in the order that they are raised. And then we're going to call you guys and you can unmute, say your question. And then after your question is done, if you could just remember to lower your hand to avoid any sort of confusion. And that's, I think, all the little announcements we have to make before we start. So first, we're going to do a quick introduction of the three panelists, and then we'll head over to the Q&A. So my name's Anna. I just finished my 2B term of biochem. I'm in co-op. And my favorite part of first year was all the friends that I got to make and the new people I got to meet, especially through iGEM, which is a club that Dr. Gilbert mentioned and that I joined in first year. So we can talk about that a little bit later if we want to. But yeah, so now I'm going to pass it on over to Jen.
Hey everyone, so my name's Jen. I'm in my 3B term of biochem with co-op. And I've been involved in BSA as a president for a couple terms. I'm also involved in iGEM. And I have been involved with Science Society and the other clubs as well. So if you have any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer them and any of your other questions. So I'll pass it off to Ethan.
Hi everyone, so I'm Ethan. I'm in my 4A term of biochemistry, so just getting ready for my last year. I've been involved in a number of clubs. Not so much related to science. I've done a bunch of dance clubs, there's salsa, swing, bachelor change, a bunch of intramurals. So if you're interested about any of that, feel free to just give me a question and I'll answer as best I can. And yeah, I think we'll get ready for the questions now.
So I'll just check the doc here. So the first question for Olivia Holness, sorry if I mispronounced your name. You can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, so can you guys hear me? Okay, so Dr. Dara Gilbert had talked about opting out for the physics 111 lab, and she talked about the bio 373 lab. Is it too late to opt out of that? Because I did not know that that was an option.
It isn't. No, you can drop one of the physics courses if you choose to. The deadlines, I don't know off the top of my head. You can check the registrar's office. If you search up important dates, there's a website that has a calendar for the entire term that tells you when you can drop things by in order to get refunds and stuff like that. So you can, if you believe that you would be better off taking another one of the labs and you want to choose that physics one, it's not too late. You can do that. I don't know if anybody has anything to add to that.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. Oh, sorry, Dr. Gilbert, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the other labs, so Chem 250L and Chem 313L, and especially Bio 333L, do require some preparation for taking those classes. And again, the physics lab is probably the easiest and most straightforward way to get that mark. But if you really hate physics, then again, you don't have to do it.
And just to be clear, you had said that the Bio 373 lab is more about human anatomy or something like that?
That's a human physiology lab, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I think our next question is from Jennifer. If you want to go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, all good.
Okay, so my question is sort of about like the co-op and stuff. I was thinking about going into like teachers college after I finish my undergrad. So would being a teaching assistant during one of my upper years be an option for a co-op placement?
For a co-op, I believe it is. I believe you can, when it comes time to apply on Waterloo Works, there are profs who put the job up for Waterloo Works. I know, for example, Stacy Lavery, who's the coordinator for Chem 220, which you take in your second year, does do that. You can always also, you do have the option of arranging jobs. So if you know you want a TA for a prof and they haven't necessarily put up that job on Waterloo Works, you can still fill in some pretty quick paperwork and get that to count if you're interested. I don't know if Ethan and Jen, you guys have some TA experience if you want to comment.
Yeah, so I do have a bit of TA experience. I've TA'd for both Chem 120 and Chem 220 with Stacy. Both great experiences. And as for co-op, there are a few TA-like positions. You'll see on the actual Waterloo Works, which is the website that you use for applying for jobs. But there are a fair amount of teaching-related jobs. You'll take a look at each job has its own list of responsibilities, and you'll see from there what's available.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just make one shameless plug for Let's Talk Science? Let's Talk Science is a program, an outreach program to schools that is a nationwide organization, and a chapter is at the University of Waterloo. And what students, volunteers, and I do it too sometimes, we have established sort of activities and we take them to elementary schools, junior high schools. I've even done some in high schools where we teach them science. And so if teaching science is one of your goals, that's an amazing volunteer opportunity that you can start next week. I don't know actually if they're doing school visits, but Heather, if you find Let's Talk Science on the University of Waterloo, might be on the SciSoc website. Do you know where it is, Anna?
Yes, so I'm not sure if it's on the SciSoc website. You could definitely check there, but if not, I believe you can just write Let's Talk Science U Waterloo, and then that should lead you to that. But also we do have a science showcase event coming up later this week. I'm not sure if Let's Talk Science is having a booth this year, but you can ask some SciSoc representatives questions there if you would like. And if you have any additional questions, one of the chords for orientation this year is actually a huge SciSoc player. So you can just message any of your chords and ask them about that, and they'll be able to get back to you with some more information if you're interested.
And the other thing I wanted to address was the undergrad TAs. Undergrad TAs are not co-op positions for the most part. And in the faculty, I know for certain in the chemistry department and probably faculty-wide, the number of undergraduate TAs is going to be is going to be decreasing due to budget issues. I'm not saying that they're going away, but it won't be as easy as it was in the past to have that undergraduate teaching assistant experience, but that's usually not co-op. For the analytical lab, there were some sort of full-time TA positions because it's just a huge lab and running it requires many, many, many hands. So I just wanted to clarify that a little bit. I'll go away now, I promise.
Okay, so I think our next question is from Peter, so you can go ahead and unmute yourself. And just a reminder, everyone, if you don't have a question anymore, you can just go ahead and pull down your hand just so we make sure we get everyone's questions.
Hello. I just have a quick question regarding co-op. If we end up not enjoying co-op and don't think it's for us, could we like drop out of it and end in 4 years versus 5? Like,
yes, that's an option. I believe so. Dara, if you have anything to add.
Oh, yeah. So you can drop co-op any time. The co-op is great in terms of job experience. Co-op can be a huge problem in terms of the amount of work it takes to actually find a job. So you'll be writing resumes, writing cover letters, doing interviews in addition to your full academic load. So that can sometimes be overwhelming for students. And you can drop co-op anytime. Depending on when you drop it will determine how long it actually takes you to graduate. But all of the courses that are required for biochemistry are set up for both the regular and the co-op streams. And it's just a plan modification form to drop co-op.
okay, thank you so much.
Okay, Olivia, I think you had another question. You can go ahead and unmute.
Okay, so if you could you elaborate more on research opportunities, whether it be for volunteering opportunities, co-op placement opportunities, and like on-campus stuff that we can do and like off-campus stuff that we can do? Whether it be from anyone.
So I can get started, I guess. So on campus, you have the opportunity to volunteer with professors to help in their research. I'm not sure of the opportunities that will be available this term, just because of the restrictions in place. But in previous years, I volunteered with Dr. Diekman in his lab a few times a week. Beyond that, me and Anna both mentioned there's iGEM, which is a synthetic biology research team. Anna, you can talk more about that if you want.
Sure, yeah. So iGEM, it's a student-led research team on campus where iGEM's an international competition, and every year teams from all over the world go to the international competition, and you basically spend a year developing a project, and then you go at the end of the year to present your findings and what you've done. And it was a really great experience. I joined in my first year. I had a lovely time, made great friends. It's a really great way of doing something fun and meeting new people, but you also gain a lot of really great skills. And it's really awesome because the way we have it set up at Waterloo, we're kind of divided into 3 mini teams. And so sometimes if you do lab one year and you want to try the math team another year, you can kind of rotate through. and you get really great experience in all aspects of research while still doing something really, really fun and meeting new people. And like Jen said, there's volunteering on campus, and there's also, you know, with co-op jobs, there are research positions. There's even a research certificate that you can now graduate with if you have done a certain amount of job placements that qualify as research placements. So there's lots of opportunities. You just have to be diligent enough to find them. Ethan, I don't know if you want to make any comments on that as well.
Yeah, so most of my research experience has actually come from co-op. There are a lot of positions available, either researching with professors, lab tech is a common position, so that's kind of just helping out with a variety of research. And I've really enjoyed that because you get to talk to other master's students and PhD students about their research as well. In terms of finding opportunities on campus, as both Anna and Jen said before, talk to the professors, see what opportunities that they can offer you, volunteer in their labs, and yeah.
And then I actually had a second part to my question too. How early can I start looking?
I would say you can start looking as soon as like next week if you wanted to volunteer with a professor, if that's an option that they're open to. And then, as Anna said, iGEM is open to first years, and those applications I think are in the winter, so sometime in January.
I think they're late January, February. Yeah. But just be conscious, just because things are a little bit different this year with COVID-19, you might not necessarily have the opportunity to start as early as you would have, but really if it's something you're passionate and it's something you're interested in pursuing, then absolutely. You can always send an email, and the worst answer you can get is a no, and then you try again, and that answer becomes a yes at some point, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just a quick point on the end of that as well. If you are looking for research opportunities with a professor online on the Waterloo Science sites, both biology and chemistry, because that's applicable for both of us, you can see all the professors that are doing the research in your faculty and their research interests. So you can see exactly what they're researching, their actual research articles and papers, which are really interesting reads if you're interested in the area. And so that'll give you a really good sense of what professor you want to contact. You don't have to have a class with the professor to get in touch with them.
One piece of advice, if you're looking for research options, don't send an email to every member of the faculty that says, I want to do research in your lab, because those emails are ignored. So make sure you find someone whose work you're interested in and put a little bit of effort into figuring out what they do. So you can write an email saying, hello, Dr. Diekman, I'm really interested in RNA structure, and I looked at this paper, and I'd really like to talk to you about your research, right? So that make sure that you show them that you've put some effort into figuring out what you want to do. I promise to shut up.
Olivia, did you have another question at all, or did you want to move on to the list?
That's everything. Thank you so much.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I think some of the questions that we had was like, what are some good study tips, especially for online classes? I don't know if that's something you guys want to answer.
Sure. Oh yeah, go ahead, Jen. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. So for me, the most important thing when I'm studying, especially when I'm studying online, is to have a good schedule and to try to stick to it as much as possible, because I'm sure some of you are familiar with this, but I am a bit of a procrastinator. And when school is online especially, it can be much harder to keep a sense of a schedule since you're not going to school. So I'll make a planner. I'll try to get it up at a certain time each day and try to keep kind of a regular schedule for myself to try to stay on top of that. So that's the best advice I can give.
Peter, did you want to go ahead with your question?
Sorry, I kind of feel like this is a dumb question, but would there be any way to get involved with volunteering and like research stuff from outside campus? Because I will not be attending like in-person campus this semester.
I can't tell you off the top of my head, but I think that that's something you could probably ask around at Friday's event for the science showcase. We're going to have different clubs presenting different things. And like, for example, SciSoc, that's somewhere that people frequently volunteer. It's not necessarily research related, but it can help you get to know people, and maybe you could ask there. In terms of profs and research, I'm not 100% sure, because even the research that's going on at the university right now is very restricted in terms of lab rotations and how many people can be there and stuff like that. If you find research that you're really interested in and you think you could help contribute to, it might be worth a shot, but I'm not sure with just everything that's happened this term how feasible it is to have that happen right away.
Another thing to consider again is most university research labs won't have volunteers who are not students that are enrolled at the university because of insurance and liability issues. So the university insurance will cover you if you're a full-time student, but they won't if you're not. So again, research opportunities off campus are limited, are much more limited, but anything you can find is okay. There's no rules about what you have to do in order to do volunteer work. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you again.
Maybe we could talk about office hours, especially since we're working remotely now. Maybe we could talk about how those work now.
Yeah, is that for me?
I can answer a little bit of that because I took some online courses this summer. As for office hours, they're actually pretty similar to usual, except for the sense that you can't go into their actual office. What I found in my online courses that the professors will have a set time, usually varies day to day. There's usually a couple times a week that you can just go in Microsoft Teams. You can do a Teams call with them. And so you can still talk to them face to face and get the help that you need, and they'll answer your questions. And in addition to that as well, you can always just send a professor an email and ask to do a private meeting or just an unscheduled meeting. Most are pretty accommodating for that if you are unable to make the scheduled class time or the office hour times.
Okay, so I think we have another question from Olivia, so you can go ahead and unmute.
What are some regrets that you had in like your first year, and what are some tips that you would give us in terms of like everything being online and just how to not like fall behind in work and stuff like that?
Good question. We can all say one quick tip if you like. That way you get tips from 3 different people. My biggest regret from, I don't know if I would call it regret, it's just something I learned to do in second year, and it has been the greatest thing ever since. So in second year, I started using my Outlook calendar, and I input at the beginning of each term the office hours for every prof into the calendar with notifications. I didn't do this in first year because I didn't think to do it, and by consequence, I did not go to that many office hours in first year. But in second year, and as you go further and questions get more complicated and you do have to go to office hours quite frequently, it was really, really great to have them in my calendar, because every day, whenever those office hours were, I would get a notification. So it wasn't the kind of thing where I had to know so-and-so had an office hour at 3:15 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I would get the notification like half an hour beforehand. And if by coincidence I had a question for that prof and I wasn't doing anything during that time, it would be, oh, perfect, now I can go, I can ask my question. And it was just this really great thing to sort of help me remember how much access I had to these profs, and so that I could ask all my questions. And so that's a tip that could be useful for online, but it will especially be useful for when you're on campus, because you have that constant reminder of when those times are so that you can ask your questions. Jen and Ethan, if you guys want to go.
Yeah. I would say one thing I wish I knew about myself is how to study and how I should study in a way that's most effective. So I'm a visual learner, and because of that, I need to be taking notes, doing questions, rewriting things constantly. And it took me probably until second year to realize that that's what I had to do to be successful. And you know, some people, they can listen to a podcast and that's how they learn. So maybe they need to record their notes with them talking and then listen back to them. So the best advice I can give is to learn in the coming month how you study and what would be most effective for you.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that Jen made. Everyone studies differently, and it's different from high school. So especially for me in first year coming into university, I kind of had to change my study habits. I found that actually making a schedule helped a ton. So especially for the midterms and exams, at the beginning of the semester, you'll get a course syllabus, and that course syllabus will usually have the midterm dates. And so right away on my calendar, I put those dates in, and so I can kind of see around that schedule because that's usually a busy time of year. And then as well, on top of that, all the assignments they're going to have. So when you have all the assignments and the midterms kind of planned out a little bit, you can see how long you need to spend for each assignment. You can see when you have free time to work on assignments. You can see when you have free time to, relax a little bit because balance is important. And so I would say definitely just creating a schedule and knowing when everything's due. So you're not rushing last minute, especially to get something done that you just forgot about.
Okay, so
Okay, thank
Melina,
you.
oh, sorry. All right, Melina, can you go ahead with your question if you still have one?
Hi, my question was, do you know, and this may vary from different classes, but if the lectures are going to be live or not, because not everyone's on campus and people may have different time zones and stuff.
So I can talk a bit about this. I took a few courses in the summer, and for mine, each had a slightly different style. So one of mine would post weekly lectures, podcast, and a PowerPoint, and those would be released at the start of the week. And then one class had all the content posted from the beginning of the semester, and then one class only posted notes. So the kind of content you might get from class to class will probably vary. But Dara, do you know how Chem 121 and Bio are going to be run?
I do know that we as faculty were told we are not allowed to have any synchronous presentation of material. So every lecture will be recorded and posted, and then you can read that, listen to them, read them at your convenience. I would recommend not getting far behind at all. Some classes will have like synchronous tutorials, which I like to do because I like interacting with people more than my computer screen. But everything that's presented has to be recorded. So even if there's a synchronous tutorial, we are required to record those and post them so that students who are 12 hours ahead or 12 hours behind, I don't know which way it works, and can't be there have access to the material. So you should have access to all the material. There may be office hours that are face-to-face, and those may or may not be recorded because of privacy concerns. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay.
Melina, did you have another question?
No, that was it. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. So where would we find textbooks and course materials for classes this year?
Learn is where all the course material will be posted. Textbooks, there's the My Book Look for the bookstore website, and I think there you can order them online and have them shipped to you if you're not near Waterloo. If you're in Waterloo, they have curbside pickup for picking up the textbooks. And all of the Learn sites go live on Tuesday.
We have a few more questions. Miranda, I think you may be muted. But Melina, do you want to go ahead?
Oh, sorry, I don't have a question. I forgot to lower my hand, sorry.
No worries.
Sorry, that's embarrassing. Setnur, you can go ahead with your question.
So I just had a quick question. I understand that classes are not scheduled, so would our best bet just be to check Learn on Tuesday morning to see what was posted?
Yeah, so most of the stuff that's going to be posted will be sort of welcome to the class. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. This is the sort of schedule of what's due when. So yeah, again, because there is no lecture time and you've got whatever 5 different classes, I would just set yourself a time, like Jen said, set yourself a schedule. I'm going to check my chemistry Learn site every day at 10 a.m. I'm going to check the Biology 130 website every day at 11 a.m. And we do tend to like to schedule your classes back to back in person. And that way you won't miss anything. That makes sense?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, Olivia, you can go ahead with your question as well.
Sorry, I have a lot of questions. So, in your class schedule, there are 3 kind of acronyms that I've noticed. There's LEC, which I'm guessing means lecture, and then there's TUT, which is, I'm guessing, a tutorial, and there's TST. What is TST, and then what is an actual tutorial?
So TST is a test slot. So usually when classes were in person, that was usually for a midterm, for example. I'm not sure, Dara, if you want to comment, or Dr. Gilbert, if you want to comment on what that means for online. Okay.
So I don't know what it means for online, but it probably, if there's a time slot, that means that your midterm is scheduled at that time. Because again, people are all over the world taking these classes. Usually there's a bit more flexibility, right? So I know my final exam for last term, I had 2 different start times. So you could start it at 8 o'clock in the morning, or you could start it at 8 o'clock at night. And I figured that covered the 12-hour time difference. But yeah, in general, a test slot, a TST means that at that time you are taking your midterm, and they're usually scheduled outside of class time. But since there is no class time, tutorials, again, will vary from professor to professor. What I do in my tutorials is I post questions in advance, and I make students think about the answers to those questions, and then we get together and discuss it. In the sort of virtual world, I have them post the answers to discussion boards and then sort of answer each other's questions, say, oh no, you have got it completely wrong, or wow, that's the best explanation I've ever seen for the answer to that question. And then we discuss it in person. But again, that will vary from class to class. And sometimes the tutorials are run by teaching assistants, sometimes the tutorials are run by the professor.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so if there's no other questions, I think we're going to wrap up with one more question, and we're just going to talk to you, the panelists, about all their co-op experiences and what they've learned and taken from them.
Hello. Hi, I have a question, but I'm not really sure how to raise my hand. So would I be able to ask it right now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I heard about like the labs and how they are optional and we can take them within our 4 to 5 year. So for me on my quest, it shows me that I have the chem lab and the bio lab this term. So, and I don't have the physics lab. So do I keep those chem and bio labs in, or can I like drop them out?
It's
Like, I'm
only
not
the physics lab that's optional.
Oh, okay. So the other ones
lab.
are
Yeah, but you
mandatory.
have to take them now.
Okay.
Otherwise,
Thank you
your
so
schedule
much.
gets completely messed up.
Thank you so much.
Great. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Miranda.
Patrick had a question if he... if I don't know. If
Oh no, I pressed it by accident. My bad. I didn't mean to press it.
That's
I don't actually have
okay.
a question. Yeah.
Okay, so if we want to move on to the co-op question then, Ethan, did you want to start off with that?
Sure, I'll start. So being in my 4th year, I've had a fair number of co-ops. I have a wide variety of co-ops. I started going to Ottawa, working at Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, working with bees and looking at DNA there. Being my first co-op that was very basic, and I kind of was just doing a lot of basic lab processes, like processing, extracting DNA, sequencing, and it was still fascinating to me, but it was not so much independent work. It was very structured. So from that co-op, from your first co-op as well, you'll learn a lot about the basics of how lab structure works. Being your probably first time in a real research lab, it is a great experience. Just get your feet wet kind of on the practices and the protocols that are in place there and kind of how labs work. My second co-op, I went to Hamilton, actually working at McMaster, and I was a lab tech there in one of their facilities. And so that was working with a lot of master students, a lot of PhD students, and assisting them with their research. And so that really helped broaden my idea of the research protocols because I was working with so many different people, so many different research ideas, a lot of different equipment. And so that gave me a much broader picture of everything that can happen in a lab and all the possibilities. After that, I went to University of Toronto and I was working at a startup there, looking at titanium dioxide particles to clean up oil spills. And so that was really interesting, much more independent work that I've learned, and using my experience from the first 2 co-ops to really help excel in that area, understanding how to conduct research, how to go about answering questions, because you're going to run into difficulties, of course. And then my next co-op, I was actually in Waterloo, working on, again, water treatment there, and very similar thing, working as a lab tech, but also independent research style. So once you really built that base, it's your base from your first co-op or 2, it's great experience to actually put those lessons into application and to really take your own independent steps, doing your own research. And I would say that's what I've learned from my co-ops. Just the whole gradual starting from the bottom, and now you're here.
Yeah, so we're running a bit short on time, so I'll go fast. But my previous co-op was in Ottawa, working for Health Canada, and I was in a virology lab. And in that position, I got to apply a lot of the biology and chemistry that I learned from labs at Waterloo. So that was really cool to see how what I've learned in class can be applied to the workplace. And I had a really positive experience there. I would say in general, when you're applying for your first co-op, don't be afraid that you don't have experience. Employers know that you're in second year of university, that you've only taken a handful of labs, and that you don't really have the lab experience. So instead, more look to apply for stuff that you're really interested in, because you can get the experience from co-op, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I have to agree with Jen. Co-ops are a really, really great place to grow, and they're a really great way to see what you've done in class happen in the real world. So that was definitely my favorite part of my last co-op. I was at a microbial ecology lab in Harrow, which is near Windsor, and I got to do a lot of molecular lab techniques, which is really, really cool because we had just finished doing a molecular course that you guys will do in second year. And so that was a really, really cool thing to see the things that I had learned in class actually be applied and be the ones applying them. So since we are running short on time, I think we are going to be ending it here, but you guys will also have some great experiences in co-op for those of you in it, and you'll learn lots of things. So Nick, I don't know if you want to take over from here.
Yeah, so thank you to Anna, Ethan, and Jen for the Q&A session. So what's next is, this is basically, and Dr. Gilbert, Dr. Gilbert, for helping with the questions. So what's next is on Thursday, no, on Friday, we will have science showcase in which all the clubs will be hosting events for 15 minutes, 15 minutes and 5. So there'll be 3 sessions, 15 minutes each, in which you'll be able to ask questions, get to know about the clubs and all the events that are happening throughout this term. And yeah, so what's next is fall 2020 classes start next Tuesday, in which all course content will be posted onto Learn for your respective courses that you are in. Also, for the textbooks that you could potentially buy, U Waterloo Booklook is a great resource, and it lists out all the textbooks that are recommended or are required. And then also, we also have a WMIS requirement through Learn that you could enroll yourself into. It is a good, I guess, certificate to have, especially with working in labs and being in the biochemistry field. And if you have questions about that, you can always ask one of the panelists or just ask myself. And just make sure to check your Waterloo emails, as winter 2021 updates will be coming out very shortly, and you are able to select your courses. I know that was a lot, but just again, thank you again for coming to this event, and we will be seeing you again at the Science Showcase on Friday at the same time, so 11 a.m. So yeah, that's basically it. I'll stop sharing my screen. And yeah, okay. So, and yeah, so I just want to wish everyone a good rest of your day, and we'll see you again soon. Bye, everyone.